As with every NFL offseason, there will be many dominant storylines, and usually those couple that get more attention and more press than everything else. And oftentimes, every NFL offseason, it's coaching changes, who stays, who goes where, and is hired by who. That tends to be one of the predominant storylines. And I think beyond question in this offseason, one of the major storylines is going to be where is Jim Harbaugh going to end up in the 2015 NFL season. I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind that his days as a San Francisco 49ers head coach are numbered. They were numbered before the season even began. Didn't even matter, I don't think, if that team won the Super Bowl or not. It's the disagreements between him and Trent Baalke. It's the fact that it seems like certain players maybe don't have that desire to want to play for Jim Harbaugh, whatever the case might be. I think everybody's in agreement that it's well established that Jim Harbaugh is gone from the San Francisco 49ers after 2014. Fact of the matter is even with this 49ers season being an incredibly disappointing one, Jim Harbaugh's had a lot of success at the NFL level. You're talking about a guy who, in his first 3 seasons, took his team to 3 straight NFC Championship games, mixed a Super Bowl appearance in there and almost a Super Bowl victory at that in there, and came this close in 2013 season in that NFC Championship game against Seattle from actually beating the Seahawks and going back to the Super Bowl. So this is a Harbaugh that in a short period of time turned the 49ers around. People might forget just how bad the 49ers were before Harbaugh got there. They were terrible. His first year, NFC Championship game. His second season, Super Bowl. Third season, NFC Championship game. So he is an incredibly appealing candidate for both NFL organizations and, frankly, for some college programs at all that need a big-name head coach that brings the type of pedigree that Harbaugh does, both at the NFL and college level as well. So where is Harbaugh ultimately going to end up in 2015? It sounds like he's been offered a huge mega deal by the Michigan Wolverines. That would make some sense. Harbaugh's had success at the college level before, be it Stanford or before that. You're talking about a guy that would go to a program anyways that believes itself to be maybe more marquee than it really is, but they would be paying him like a marquee coach. Reportedly, they have offered him the highest contract that any college football head coach would make, much higher than even Nick Saban's. So financially, Harbaugh would make a ton of money. He'd be able to go back and coach at his alma mater, and maybe he doesn't want quite the pressures of the NFL level anymore. And maybe also his personality is frankly suited to the college level better than the NFL, because every 3 to 4 years he can change his entire roster over. Whereas opposed to the NFL, his type of personality and the way he conducts and carries himself both in the locker room and as a coach on the field can start to rub players the wrong way after a couple of seasons. Well, in college you don't have to worry about that so much because those guys are usually never there for more than 3, 4, maybe 5 years at the very, very most. So there's a lot of appeal there. I'm just not sure that now that Harbaugh has taken that step to the NFL level and he's been successful at the NFL level that he would want to take the step back down to the college level, frankly. And if he was, I think he would much rather coach at a Stanford than a Michigan, if I'm just being perfectly realistic here, because what is the Michigan program nowadays? So now I'm of the belief that Harbaugh, at this moment, at least based off of what I see, I think Harbaugh will coach somewhere in the NFL in 2050, but the question is where. You could look at the Jets as a possibility. Major media market, the need to make a big splash, moving on from Rex Ryan and his defense-first philosophy. You could bring in Jim Harbaugh and his offense-first philosophy. He could get a new quarterback to work with, and you still have a defense in place, a style of defense in place that Harbaugh is very familiar with based off of his time in San Francisco. It could be successful. Of course, the Jets are really, really bad. And is Jim Harbaugh really going to want to take on the New York Jets in that media market? Is that really a good fit? I don't know about all that. I look at the Chicago Bears, and maybe this is more of a pipe dream, but this is the organization that once drafted him in the first round in 1987 out of Michigan. This is a guy who was a starting quarterback for the team for several seasons. Furthermore, when you talk about Harbaugh and the Bears fit, you're talking about a team that needs something different. They need a personality as their head coach. After the Jerrons and the Lovie Smiths and the Mark Trestmans, and basically hiring 3 guys with the exact same type of personality and construction in terms of who they are as a head coach. Harbaugh comes in and he's completely counterculture to that. And that is very important for the Chicago Bears. They don't need that same type of personality that they've had their past several coaches. That doesn't make any sense. If that personality didn't work before, why would you bring in another guy that's the exact same type of way and has the same type of manner and way of conducting himself? Harbaugh would be different. Harbaugh brings that fiery personality that seems to fit the Chicago Bears fan base, organization, city a whole lot better. Furthermore, frankly, he's the type of personality that the organization needs. And for an organization that for so long has toiled in mediocrity and has always seemed to go the second-rate route when it comes to a head coach, here is a chance to really make a statement. Here is a chance to say that things will change. Here is a chance to get that necessary, full, complete rebuild done in a right way by making a statement and say, we've got a big-name head coach, we are not afraid of spending money, and we want to win. A lot of elements of this would work. And that's probably why I won't end up with the Chicago Bears, so I can keep dreaming. And then I look at the Atlanta Falcons. Some people kind of look at me and say, huh? And I think even if the Atlanta Falcons make the playoffs, that Mike Smith is a goner. And I think Arthur Blank is ready to move on. He might not be totally done with Dimitrov, but I think he is done with Mike Smith. And I think Arthur Blank, you look at him, he's the type of guy that doesn't strike me as being somebody that's afraid to spend money. Here's a guy that is willing to invest in his product, willing to invest in his team. And knowing that down the road he's got a new stadium coming, maybe he wants to bring in a different type of guy. Maybe he wants to bring in a different type of personality. Maybe he wants to get even more out of Matt Ryan in that offense. Maybe he feels like Harbaugh in the mix will be able to do more than a Mike Smith ever could with that organization. I think one of the sleeper dark horse teams that could be in the mix potentially for a Jim Harbaugh could potentially be the Atlanta Falcons, especially if Smith and Dimitrov are sent packing, and even if it's just the head coach Mike Smith that's sent packing. But I think at the end of the day, the best fit for all parties involved when it comes to Jim Harbaugh and his next head coaching destination, I think, has to be the Oakland Raiders. He's probably pissed off about the way things have went down in San Francisco. So what better way to get back at the Bay Area team than to go to the other Bay Area team? You are looking at an Oakland Raiders organization that is terrible. You are looking at an Oakland Raiders organization that is one of the worst run in the league and has been for a significant period of time now. You were talking about a team that is about as close to the bottom as bottom can be in the National Football League. And if you're a guy like Jim Harbaugh, and you've already kind of made your reputation off of turning around a team like you did in San Francisco, what better situation could you go to than the Oakland Raiders? You know Mark Davis really wants you. He's going to fork over the Brinks truck. He's going to pay you a shit ton of money. Knowing that Reggie McKenzie's probably going to be fired, there's a significant chance that Jim Harbaugh could either be named the general manager himself or be able to bring in his own general manager where Jim Harbaugh would still have final say-so over personnel, which for a guy like Harbaugh might be incredibly appealing. You also have a young quarterback at Derek Carr that he might want to work with. Pieces like Khalil Mack and C.O. Moore that if he brings somebody in to run a full-time 3-4 defense, he feels could be a tandem of scary edge rushers at the NFL level for years to come, guys that he can build a new defense around. You also look at a Harbaugh, too, and you have to look at the situation and you say, there's nowhere to go but up. If Harbaugh came in and in 2 years he got the Raiders to 8-8, he looks like a god. He looks like a genius. What a low floor, what a low, great baseline to work from if you are a head coach like a Jim Harbaugh. Following kind of that Bill Parcells route of coming in with a team at the total bottom and then building them up so that way even if you only got them to a certain point, you still look like a god because you turned them around so quickly in such a short period of time. Maybe that's the MO for a Jim Harbaugh. Maybe that's the way it's always going to be. He's never going to be a guy that sticks around in a place for 10 or 15 seasons because his personality and the way he conducts and carries himself won't suggest that he can. Maybe he's always going to be that 3 to 5 year guy. But he could be the right type of 3 to 5 year guy for certain organizations. And I think at the end of the day, the best decision for Jim Harbaugh and the best decision for the Oakland Raiders is for Jim Harbaugh to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders. There are too many things in place. There are too many things that just seem to make too much sense for this move to not happen. I'd be very surprised if it didn't happen. And unless Harbaugh came to my Chicago Bears, he went anywhere else. I'd frankly be disappointed if Jim Harbaugh went anywhere else. I think Harbaugh sees the appeal of taking one Bay Area team that has a huge national following and turning them around and seeing what he can do with another team in the Bay Area with a huge national following, being able to turn him around and seeing what that could mean to him and the ability to make money down the road and talking about establishing his legacy as a head coach at the NFL level. I think there's a lot of appeal there. I think he would also look at the Oakland Raiders and say, you have San Diego, Phillip Rivers is getting older. How much longer is Peyton Manning going to play? What's Kansas City ever going to really be? There's a chance there to bring an NFC West style of football to the AFC West and be really successful and be successful quicker than people really anticipate. I think Jim Harbaugh has no choice. I think the Oakland Raiders have no choice. They've got to find a way to get together. They've got to find a way to make it work because Harbaugh needs it, Mark Davis needs it, the Oakland Raiders need it. Frankly, the National Football League needs Jim Harbaugh to be the next head coach of the Oakland Raiders, and I'd be very surprised if that isn't what ultimately happens.